Welcome, D20 players. We've been taking a look at the draw steal rules and how I plan to run games and kind of go over what you'd expect as a player in a game I'm running. Do some deep dives into some of the pre-gen characters, see how characters work in the game. Um, this screen here is Roll20 that you're looking at. If you have any questions and you're in the chat live, don't hesitate to ask. I'm happy to answer questions as I go. And if you watch this back later, don't hesitate to leave a comment in the comment section, and I'll try and get to those questions too. So in the pre-gen, there's 9 characters, and I got those pre-gen characters there across the bottom of the screen. My setup for Roll20, I was going to make these little tokens to track some of the meta currencies, because there's a few meta currencies in this game. Malice and hero points being the 2 big ones that are universal to all players, and all players will see them and probably want to know where they're at or have some idea where they're at. And then players will have their own currencies to be tracking. And this game is going to require, it's highly tactical, right? So it's going to be fun to play, but it's going to require a lot of dedication and a lot of paying attention on each of the players' parts. And as a GM, I encourage you to really police any kind of interacting tactical discussions that are getting to rules minutia, because I'll just pull everyone out of the game and slow the game down to a crawl. You want to keep the pace fast, make sure everyone's going on, ready to go on their turn, acting in character, doing things in character, and not interrupting other people's turns. I think this game can run at a pretty brisk pace. It certainly didn't when we play tested it, and we were still learning then. So I have Malice set up here where it's in the turn order, so that all the players can see Malice all the time, and all the players can see hero points all the time. And I also have these little tokens I made up where you can have that in a token form. I think having it in the turn order is better. I think that's going to work out better for me. So I may just not even use these little token icons here to show that. So how do I run initiative or encounter initiative? So I have Malice hero points. I got the round here. So when a combat turn starts, I would just basically roll the initiative roll, which is a D10. And if it's 6 or higher, the players decide who has initiative. And so say I got I got a 1 here, so I would just launch right into the first enemy's turn. Say I got a 6 or higher, I'd go to the characters probably like closest to the enemies and say, are you guys going to go first, or are you guys going to go second? And I wouldn't give them time to do a group debate, for a minute about if they're going first or second. Combat's starting. So I'd let them have that chance. I'd say you had to decide right away, or else the monsters go first. And then we're right into the first round of combat. So then the first round of combat comes, let's say the players decide they're going to go first. So what I have a little thing set up for the initiative. If you click on your character, you'll see a bunch of macro buttons across, and we'll talk about what those do. But there's these ones at the end here that just are kind of flags that let me know when you want to go. So if you are planning out what you want to do, you don't want to jump into the initiative yet, you'll just click the initiative 0. And that lets me know you're not ready to go yet. So, we're at the first round, looking for the first player who wants to go. If you're a 1, that means you've planned out your turn, you know what you're going to do, you can jump in whenever, but you don't care if you're prioritized. And then the 2 is you're ready to go and you want to go as soon as you possibly can. So I'd ask everyone, I'd explain that before the game started, and then everyone can just constantly be updating those numbers, and I can look down at my initiative track or turn order down over here and know right away, okay, so here's our first round. The Dwarf Fury is ready to go. I move the Dwarf Fury up above the round marker, and they take their turn. And then right after them, an enemy would take their turn. And then I look in the tracker here, and hopefully by the time the other creatures have taken their turns, the other players are thinking, oh, I think I'm ready to go, or I'm not ready to go. So let's say the Tactician's figured out what they're going to do, and the Censor's figured out what they're going to do, and I see 1 and 1 down there. I'm just going to take the first one. So I'll take the high up Tactician, says your turn, they take their turn, and then an enemy, and then the only person left, and the next enemy. And we've done everyone. Then I'll move the round back up, toggle it up to 2, so we can track how many rounds we're at. Malice is going to build every single round. And you notice I started out here with 6, but if I'm only fighting 3 characters or playing in the game, the Malice would be on the first round of combat 4 in the first combat of the day. So let's reduce that Malice. I got these little buttons here so I can just quickly reduce the Malice. I don't like exactly that it's whispering to me all the details here. I'm going to try and change that in the programming. And then I'm going to be happily sharing the macro to do this here. Pretty straightforward. Uses a couple of APIs. So you have to have the APIs to do it if you want to do it in Roll20. But it keeps it right in front of the players and seamless for me as a DM to keep up to date. Okay, so then round 2 comes up. I know, okay, now my mouse is going to go up by 5. So I'll just up that by 5. It'll post to the players what's happening here. And if that, is that right? I posted 5 twice and 7 twice because I hit them so close together, but I think that's still correct. So we're up to 9 malice on the next round of combat, and I'm looking to see who's ready, and hopefully the players have been updating their initiative. After their turn, I'll make sure to remind players the first time. As soon as you're done with your turn, put that back to 0 while you're planning your next turn, and only raise it back up when you know what you're going to do on your next turn. So let's say the start of the round looks like this. I look down there, I see the Tactician's ready, the Sensor's ready, they both want to go first. I'll say to one of them, Tactician, you going first, or are you letting the Sensor go first? I'm not going to wait for a debate. We just want to have this stuff go fast, right? You want your turn to come up fast as a player. You don't want to be waiting around forever for your turn to come back around. So I just have the Tactician go. Then an enemy goes, and then I look down, I see the Sensors ready, they go, and then another enemy goes, and then the Dwarf will go, and another enemy goes. And that's round 2 complete. Put the round marker back up there and go to round 3. So that's how I'm going to track rounds. I'm going to track malice, I'm going to track hero points. Just keep that in front of the players at all times and keep it moving fast, right? Combat should be cinematic. That's what they say in the game. Should be fun. And I find cinematic, I don't know about everyone, but I find it most fun when my turn comes around right away. And I can describe what I'm doing in my character's turn quickly, and it's on to the next person's turn. So that's how I'd run initiative. Pretty straightforward, pretty simple. Let's look at the characters in some depth. Again, if you guys have any questions, let me know in the chat. We have a Dwarven Fury as one of the pre-generated characters. So you'll see if you click on the character, you get all these little macro buttons across the top. You already know what the IN0, IN1, IN2 does. That just notifies me when you're ready to go or not ready to go. Then you have this first one, which is just kind of a recap of the character. So when we start the adventure, if you want to describe your character, I might click that button. It'll show the other players what you look like. And some general stuff that you have. So Dwarven Fury, level 1, Berserker is the subclass. The cultures weren't given for these pre-gens, so no cultures shown. Hey, good evening, Lawbringer. Career, he's a warden, and with that comes a perk of being brawny. He's got languages of Celian, Vaslorian, Zaliak. I need to learn all these languages and how they're pronounced. Size, medium. Speed of 6, so everything's in squares in this game. 6 being equivalent to about 30 feet of movement. Disengage, every creature's got a variable ability to disengage. It's a move action to disengage, and you get every round, you get a main action, a maneuver, and a move action. So one of the ways you can use your move action is to disengage, and that lets you shift a number of squares, and the number for this character is 1. And when you do that, you do not provoke attacks of opportunity. And then he's got stability of 3. So Dwarf, he's anchored down. Any push or pull or slide effect that's 3 or less has no effect on him. And everything above that is reduced by 3. So he's going to be hard to push around. Stamina is like hit points a little bit. Not a reflection of actual physical wounds, but a reflection of your ability to fight, reducing. And it's affected by a number of things, your class, your ancestry, I don't know if that does, but your class and your kit have big effects on your stamina. And remember, this game has no, quote, attack roll. So you're always affecting your opponent's stamina. Hey, folks. Hi, Simon. You're always affecting someone's stamina when you're attacking them. If you're taking a great sword to someone, even if you, quote, miss, it took some of their stamina to avoid that attack. And so every single swing of your sword, you're taking people's stamina down. Kit's increasing that a little bit is one way it's reflected, but what better armor does for you. So stamina 33, they become winded at 16. There's no actual in-game effect directly for winded. There might be game effects that reference winded, but I haven't seen any yet on the pre-gens. And then you have recoveries. So a number of times per day, you can get back some of your stamina. You take a breather, um, and you get back. Generally, it's 1/3, and it's round down, 1/3 round down. So that's pretty handy. Oh, here's another thing. And some purists might not like this, and I understand, but I do show hit point bars and hit points because I feel like if you're in a combat situation, you look around at your allies, your companions, you know when they're getting winded, you know when they're in trouble, you know when they need a word of encouragement, magical healing, or things of that nature. And so I don't want to have that conversation over and over and over because it's just something you can observe. So I just put it out there for you to be able to observe it. Um, and in this game, a lot of D&D games, you'll always be like, "Oh, you're down a little bit of hit points. Would a 10-point cure be good for you, or would that just be wasted? You know, are you down 3 hit points? Are you down 10 hit points? Are you down 20 hit points?" This game, every time a recovery is used, it gets them back a third of their hit points. So you can actually just look at a person, and you know if they're at the winded level, they'd make full use of a recovery. None of it would be wasted. So it's really easy to gauge that. You don't have all that discussion happening in the game. I think that'll make that go a little bit faster for all the players. Um, so that's recoveries, healing 11, 1/3 of the stamina every time you use one. Um, every hero has a heroic resource. So we have these two resources, Malice. Malice drives abilities for the GM to use against the players. Hero points allows the players to spend those hero points to get some benefits. Um, and then and that's a communal set of benefits. So that's communal hero points that everyone can get to. But ferocity is just for the dwarf to track. And I have all these things to track for the character on the character sheet under attributes. But I recommend just using the scratch pad because you're going to be going up and down so fast. The only thing I care about you showing would be your stamina because that's what other people can observe. I don't care if they can see your ferocity. I don't care if they can see your surges, your recoveries, victories, experience, any of that stuff. You can just have that on a scratch pad. You can use this form right here to do it, but it takes a little bit of time to get back and forth to it. So in a game, I recommend a scratch pad for that. So ferocity. At the start of your turn, every single turn, you're going to gain D3 ferocity. I got a button for that. You'll see the buttons arranged. Let me talk about how the buttons are arranged here. You have the intro stuff, which we're looking at right now for the character. You have the character's characteristics, which is their might, their agility, their reason, their intuition, their presence, shown here. Oh, also in that intro button, some important stats are shown, so you don't have to go into the intro button at all. You can just see it when you click on the character. You see who they are, and I'll give them the name the player chooses. Their size, their speed, their disengaged value, their stability value, and their stamina. Then you have their characteristics, and if you hit this button, it'll actually make a test for you. So in this game, tests are at 3 levels. There's easy tests, moderate tests, and hard tests. So you got, again, your characteristics over here repeated. And then you have a bunch of skills. Every character has a lot of skills, like almost 10, roughly. And then some things that'll affect your characteristics tests. And then it actually rolls a test for you. And I'm going to click it again so it gets up on the top of the screen above the chat. There we go. And so with one table here, I have everything that you need to know about tests. So easy tests have 3 results, medium tests have 3 results, hard tests have 3 results, and assisting have 3 results. So if something is easy, you're going to succeed all the time. There might be a slight complication if you roll less than 12. If something's moderate, you'll succeed if you get a 12 or higher. And there might be a slight complication unless you roll a 17. And then a hard test, you need a 17 to succeed. And then assisting, that's if you're trying to help someone who doesn't have a skill you have. So say someone's trying to climb a wall and they don't have a climb skill. You can use your climb skill to assist them. You'd roll a test, and if you roll a 12 or higher on your test, you'd grant an edge on their check. So that's your making tests there. The numbers are easy, automatic, moderate, 12 or higher, hard, 17 or higher. And since this is using 2d10, there's quite a curve and a huge reduction in probabilities to get to a 17. I don't have that table here, but it's much reduced percentage-wise. All right. So that's those two things. And then you have your actions all lined out here. And they start out with the character special actions that that character can do that no one else can. And then there's generic ones: charging anyone can do, defending anyone can do, free strikes anyone can do, and healing anyone can do. Then you have maneuvers. And if that character had any special maneuvers, they'd be here. And this one doesn't. But then you have all the generic maneuvers that anyone can do. And then your move, you have the generic moves everyone can do. And then anything that's triggered. So this game, you're going to have to be focused because there's a lot of things that are triggered. Um, Decide with your group ahead of time. Are you only playing your character? I highly advise that. Much funner, much more fun gameplay. You play your character, you worry about your character. You don't remind anyone else of something their character can do. That just bogs the game down. Yeah, maybe with group think you can overcome more things, but boy, that's not a lot of fun, I don't think. So you're going to be watching for your triggers, and all your triggers are lined out here. The probably one of the most important ones are the triggers for your heroic resource. So for ferocity for this fury, they're going to get ferocity at the start of their turn, and the trigger, like what triggers it, I have shown here on the button, so you can be watching for the triggers. So start their turn, they're going to get D3 ferocity. And then once per round, it's actually the first time in a round, but I don't care if it's second time in a round, whatever you do. But just one time in a round, when they take damage, they're going to get +1 ferocity. The first time, or one time per encounter, when they become winded, they'll gain D3 ferocity. So rolls that for them. One time per encounter, if they become dying, they'll get a D3 ferocity. So rolls that for them. So they're watching these ferocity triggers all the time. Now, luckily, these are all for this class, just self-contained. You're not watching for what other people are doing with this class. Some do. We'll get to others that do that. There is a lines of force special triggered power your class has that you're watching for a target to get force moved. That's within one of you. I'll tell you how these things are kind of laid out, but basically give you a shorthand for what the range of these things are. So it starts with the power name, and then M for melee, R for ranged, 1 or whatever the range is. And then what does it affect? It affects yourself or a creature. This one can. And it's triggered, and the trigger is target force moved. Um, so say you're playing this game, right? You're at a table, you're getting immersed. You want to be describing what others are seeing while your character's doing their thing. So you don't have to say, I use lines of force. You could say what you do, like I grab them and redirect them and push them that way. And I'll probably ask you to click the button, or I always want you to click the button so I know technically what's happening. I can move the guy the right amount and put him in the right location, etc. But you describe what it looks like, what your character's doing. You can key off the name of the power or just describe it how you like. And there's also some like power descriptive text that you can key off of or give your own. So this one has, I redirect energy of motion, kind of generic lame. I should add something else to that. But the effect here is you select a new target. So either you or some creature within one of you is getting force moved, and this triggers this power. So now you get to select a new target. So you were getting forced moved, you can turn it, I guess the thing that was forced moving you, for example, if they're adjacent to you, and they become the new target of their own forced move. New target, they have to be your size or smaller, or the size of the creature that was getting forced moved or smaller. And you become the source of the forced move. You determine their new destination. You can push them instead of whatever was happening to them. They could have been being pulled, they could have been slid. You can do those same things, or you can push them. And the distance that you push them is increased by 2. And a number of things can trigger that to be more. If you happen to currently have a ferocity of 2 or higher, your push is 2 more. If you have a ferocity of 4 or higher, you're going to gain a surge when you do this. If you push them into an object, you're going to do more damage than normal for pushing into an object. If you spend ferocity, you can add, spend 1 ferocity instead of the +2, you add +4 to the distance. So you'll be watching for that trigger. Once per round, you're going to be throwing someone into something. You'll be watching for that. Be watching for your ferocity things to go up, and then finally at the end of your turn, the only other trigger. So you got what, 6 triggers to look for. And one is just generic in the turn. When you have any kind of an effect that's a save effect, you roll to save, and a 6 or higher, you save. So that's what you're watching for. Now let's look at your abilities. So you can do an action, maneuver, and a move. You can turn your action into a second maneuver or a second move if you want. You have a couple of signature actions, and those you can do over and over, and they're a little bit better than a free strike. You can always do a free strike, which is just attacking in melee with a weapon or attacking at ranged with a weapon. So let's look at what that does for you. It's got a melee 1, so 1 square away from you in melee, or ranged 5, and you can attack a creature or an object with it. You roll a power roll, 2d10 plus your might, in this case, 2d10 plus 2, and with a result of 5, with a melee attack, you do 4 damage. You could instead do Brutal Slam, which is a melee 1 against 1 creature or object. A roll of 17, which is huge. That's going to do 15 damage. Push them 6 if I'm at ferocity of 2. If I'm at ferocity of 4, it's going to push them 6, and I'm going to get a surge. And if I run him into an object, if I was like standing there and they were between me and a wall, I push them into a wall directly. Now I'm going to do 6 damage to them for hitting the wall with the amount of force movement I'm giving them. 2 more because they're hitting an object. 2 more because I have my strike pushed into an object power of my fury for a grand total of 10 points of damage from my Brutal Slam push, plus 15 damage I did to him. So 25 damage with that one attack. And that's a signature power I can do over and over and over. Devastating Rush is another signature power I can do over and over. The faster I move, the harder I hit. I rush up to him, I smash him with the sword. If I roll an 8, for example, in this case, I do 5 damage. I can move 3 squares straight toward them before I do the power. So I can move on up, and for every square I moved, I do 3 more or 1 more damage. So I do 3 more on top of that 5 for a grand total of 8 damage. So you can see this is 5, 8, 19 versus free strikes are 4, 7, 13. It's always better. Why would you ever do a free strike? Well, you have a power to charge. This is an action where you can move your speed straight toward a creature and then get a melee free strike. So that's one reason. And then I think it is, I forget who it was, but yeah, the Tactician, they have a power called Now. My allies wait for my command and unleash death. It's a range 12 and affects 3 of your allies. Each one of them going to make a free strike. So that's where another reason why the barbarian would be doing a free strike. So that's where that might come in. Now you have a couple powers that you can use once you've built up enough fury to use them. And those are shown here. So I have the name of the power. If it's got a number, that's how much of your heroic resource it'll take. So with each of these characters, basically the first thing after your action shows these heroic abilities. And they're usually a 5-1 and a 3-1. So let's say I'm on my barbarian, I'm going to use blood for blood, spend 5 of my heroic resource. In melee 1, creature or object, I rolled a 15 on the thing. Let's see how well they fight after blood dry. I do 8 damage to them. If their might is less than 1, they're bleeding and weakened, save ends. I can take more damage to myself and do more damage to them as well. And then I have back. This one, there's the name of the power is back. 3 is the heroic resource it takes. And now instead of an M, it's going to be there. That stands for burst. So that's going to be in all directions for me, 1 square. And E means it's affecting enemies. C is creatures. O is objects. A would be allies. Don't know if there's a, S would be self. So you got the name, the heroic resource, the distance, who it affects. And you can see I don't have the A that I have in the screen over here up here because they're all sorted by in the action area. So now I'm going to do back. This one, I hew all with my mighty weapon, hurling enemies back. With that roll, I do 5 damage, and I don't actually hurl enemies back. I should change the wording on that one. You got to roll a 12 or higher to push them 1. And once you push them 1, then you're pushing them 3. I don't know if the ferocity at 2, giving you the +2 to push, would affect if you had pushed them 0 to start. I don't think it does. I'll have to look that up before we play. Okay, so your turn's coming up. You're doing your 1 action. You've done it. Now you want to think about, okay, what maneuver am I doing? There's a bunch of choices, And so you'll always want to be kind of planning out your whole turn ahead of time before you say you're ready. So you're not stuck waiting. Uh, you can, of course, not do one of these things. That's cool. But there's a number of things you can do. You can aid and attack. This one might be one of the most common ones you might do, where you're going to grant edge to the next ally ability versus an adjacent enemy. So you can always be harrying one of your enemies with your maneuver to help the rest of your party. You can grab the enemy with your grab power or grab ability because maybe you don't want them to get to your spellcasters in the back. You can catch your breath, which lets you spend your recovery to get back your uh, your recovery value. You can't do that while you're dying, so you got to watch out for that. While you're dying, someone else could use an action to do a heal on you, letting you spend your recovery, but you can't spend it on your own with catch breath. Um, I don't think we'd check the other actions here. There's also defend. That's another action you can do. Okay, back to maneuvers. Aid attack, catch breath, escape a grab a creature, hide from creatures, knock back creatures, and the barbarians are really good at knocking creatures back because it's got all sorts of pushing it can do. You can move a grabbed creature. Let's say he's grabbing this tactician here. You can move the tactician anywhere adjacent to him. If he's got the tactician grabbed, that's a maneuver to do that. He can search, stand up. So standing up is a maneuver. Not only can you stand, but you can grab someone adjacent to you and pull them to their feet. So that's another nice thing you can do with that. And use consumable. So probably a good default with the maneuver is always to aid an attack. Yeah, aiding attack, always a good default. Grabbing is a pretty good default if you don't want them to get away from you and do stuff on their away from you. Knocking them back if you want to push them over an edge or push them up against the wall, do some damage to them. Yeah, all good things. And then you have your movement, and your movement can be anywhere mixed in with your action and your maneuver. In fact, here's the action economy. I should have shown this before. A draw steel turn, you have an action, a maneuver, and it's actually called a main action because they call the move a move action. So action, maneuver, move. You can split your move before or after your actions and your maneuvers. You can trade your action for a maneuver, a second maneuver, or a second move. You cannot trade your maneuver or your move. So you can't get like 3 moves or you can't get 3 maneuvers. The most you can move would be twice. You get a trigger once per round unless it's free. So your barbarian's got one trigger that's not free, that's lines of force. And he's got all the rest of these triggers are free. Now, some of them are only once per round, like ferocity and um, once per encounter for other things of ferocity, or only at the start of your turn or the end of your turn. So effectively, all these triggers are once per round, and some are only once per encounter for the barbarian or the fury. Yeah, I think that's it. So that's your character, and pretty straightforward. Now, I mean, you can do anything, right? Anything you can do in D&D, you could do in Draw Steel if you want to think of it that way, or in Shadow Dark or anything. You just have lots of extra stuff to do. So if I wanted to just play like I was playing Shadow Dark, I have my movement, I have a free strike, so I can attack with my weapon. I can go climb a wall, I can go pull a rope, I can go um, pick a lock, all those things. I don't think I have it. I don't. I should put it here, but another maneuver is to make a test. So any like skill you want to use is that. So just think of your character as you in the world. What would you do on your turn? You can do that thing. And then in this game, you have a lot more special, like superpower-ish type things to do as well. 5e's that way, a lot of superpower-ish type things. The basics are there though. If you're just playing basic, there's lots of free attacks and stuff. So that is the Fury. You're watching for your own resources. You don't have to worry about anything else. The Tactician. This reminds me a lot of like the Warlord from 4th edition D&D. Hey, CB, thank you very much. And thanks for the comment. Loving the walkthroughs. So the Tactician. Let's just look at the summary for the Tactician. This one is a high elf, Tactician Vanguard. Size of medium, speed of 6, disengage of 2, stability of 1. So not as stable as that dwarf for sure. good stamina, just as good as the dwarf. Um, the focus is their heroic resource. So at the start of their turn, they're going to get 2 every turn at the start of their turn. The first time in a round, they or an ally damages their marked target. They get 1. So here's where you got to look. Luckily, you're only looking at your marked target, but you're looking for any ally to damage them or you to damage them, and you'll get a heroic resource. The first time in a round, an ally within 10 of you uses heroic resource. So that is hard to watch for. And I want it to be on you. If you're a player at my table, I don't want you interrupting other people. Um, Thanks, Simon. Yeah, definitely. So um, focus on your stuff. You're going to be watching, though, for anyone using heroic resources. How will you know if they're using heroic resources? Well, in my table, you can watch for what they're doing. And if they're doing anything where you can see a number right after the name of the thing, like now is 5, concussive strike is 3, and you'll get used to what things are their signature things and what things are their heroic things. But anything with a number is going to be a heroic thing. And boom, they do that within 10 of you. You gotta, where is it? Once per round, you ally damage mark. Once per round, ally and 10 use heroic resource. So as soon as you see it happen, boom, you got to focus. As soon as you see your mark get damaged, boom, you got to focus. And at the start of your turn, 2 focus. So you can get basically 4 focus every turn. And you just got 3 things to watch for. One of them can be any other character, though. So you want to watch for that. And they don't have to do that heroic resource on your mark. They just have to do a heroic resource within 10 of you. So you watch them for that. Now, when the party's deciding maybe about strategies before combat, who should go first is a good discussion to have. And oftentimes it should be someone like the tactician who can mark someone. So one of your main powers is to mark, and it's under maneuvers, and it's range of 10, a creature. So you're going to draw allies' attention to a specific foe with devastating effect. You mark them till the end of the encounter, till you're dying, till you reuse this ability, or until someone else marks them, or you can willingly end it for free. When they go to 0 stamina, you can use a free trigger to mark a new target. So you're watching for that. I don't think I have actually a thing up there for that, but you'll be watching for that. When that marked target is in line of effect to you, you grant you and allies in your line of effect, you grant an edge on their power rolls versus it. So let's say this box here is, a big building, you can't see through it. Here is the tactician. Here's a sensor. Here's a dwarf. You're fighting some rat people. Oh, you're fighting a evil sorceress, evil polder sorceress. Simon, I'm running a draw steel game Saturday. That's going to be my first one. It's full up. I got 1 alternate for that. But if you're interested, go to D20 Play Discord, which is in the channel description. Join up there and watch for game announcements, because I'll probably do more. Okay, so that tactician, say they got this evil humanoid marked. And I don't know if anyone like the sensor grant edge on allies on effect. Okay, so say the sensor, he doesn't have this, but say he did, had a ranged area attack. He would not get the edge that you're granting. You have line of effect to your mark target, but he does not have line of effect to your mark target, even though it does an area effect that damages it. So he would not get the edge, but the Fury would get the edge. So then also you're watching for, if you or an ally uses an ability to deal damage to the marked target, you can spend a focus to do more damage. So that's what you're watching for here. I should have these. Okay, mark. You ally damage mark, you can do more damage, or they can spend a recovery, or they can shift 2. So you can be like, I'm cheering them on, and with more strength, they do more damage, 2 damage extra. I'm cheering them on, and they catch the second wind, they get a recovery. I tell them, watch out, there's other enemies coming, and they can shift 2. So that's how you can do, that. Then you got, if you damage your marked target with a melee attack, you can taunt them. So that's that. You can do all the same things. You can grant someone else, and you can taunt them, and that's a heroic resource of 1. Um, use a heroic. I don't know if this is a heroic ability or a heroic resource, but I would let it fly if you were happening to do that. But you don't do it on yourself, so it wouldn't matter that way. Okay, what else does the Tactician have for triggers? They have a parry every round. It's a melee 2. So, like, if they're standing here, they're helping the sensor. The sensor's covered. If that sensor starts their turn, oops. If that sensor creature damage you or an ally, the sensor is damaged by a creature, self or an ally. So you're gonna use your parry. My quick reflex is throw at the enemy's precision. I can shift 1. If the target is me, or if I end my shift adjacent to the target, the damage is halved and -1 potency. So I can shift to here, the damage will be halved, and the potency will be -1 on the attack against my ally. I can spend a focus, like if I was standing here, I could spend a focus to help this guy clear over there, and I could shift 2 um, to block an incoming attack on that ally. So that's their trigger that they'll always be watching for, parry. Got their mark stuff, their focus stuff, and then save-ins. So that's the things they're watching for. They got to watch out for anyone in the party using the heroic resource. Now, what can they do offensively? Let's see. They, of course, have their free strike. They have their signature actions. I think strike now is signature, but I don't have it marked as such. They have protective attack, where the strength of my assault makes it impossible for my foe to ignore me. So they basically taunt a creature. They, rush in, smash them for 7 damage, taunt them. They can do 2 shots. This one, Tacticians can use like 2 kits. So this Tactician's armed to the gills, got bows, got pole arms, got swords, got small shields, got heavy armor, and it can do 2 shot. So 2 shots, 2 creatures or 2 objects out to a range of 12. With a 12 on the roll, they'll do 6 damage to both of them. They can do strike now, which is a range of 10 to an ally. So if I was over here and my fury was there, I could use strike now as my action and target the fury and say they can use a signature ability as a free target attack. So they can use their brutal slam, boom, signature ability, doing 5 damage and pushing that guy 1 or more with their attack. So that's the signature stuff I can do. And then my heroic stuff I have now, where I can do kind of the same thing with 3 different targets, give 3 different targets free strikes, not signature ability, but free strike. I can do concussive strike, so I can come up on that evil sorceress, do concussive strike on her. Or I can even do it from range. That's a range 12, so I can do it with my bow even. My precise strike leaves the foe struggling to respond. 13 on the attack roll for 9 damage, and if their might's less than 1, which it is on that sorceress, they are dazed save-ins. So that's my offensive stuff. That's my actions I can do. Maneuvers are all the same, except I have the mark, and moves are all the same. So that's the Tactician. So now let's look at the sensor. The sensor reminds me of a paladin, for sure. So sensor. They have a saint they follow. Speed of 5, so not real fast. Disengage 1, stability 2, a little bit more stable, pretty good stamina, a lot of recoveries, and they can spend their recoveries to help others. Their heroic resources Wrath. At the start of their turn, they're going to gain 2. The first time in a round, a judged target damages them, they gain 1. The first time in a round, they damage a judged target, they gain 1. So they only have to watch out for themselves as far as their Wrath goes. Start of the turn, 2. Judge damages you, 1. You damage judged, 1. So they can get up to 4 Wrath per round. Got to watch just what they're doing. Now, they have kind of like a mark thing. It's called judged or judgment. So range 10, they can do it on enemy. It's maneuver. So like the mark is maneuver. Another character class that you might want to talk about having them go first when you guys are in combat. Judgment. So they can judge someone until the end of the encounter, until they use it again, until they willingly end it, or until another one judges. Same as the mark, but different. Then the person can be judged and marked. When they judge someone, they can also vertically pull them force. They pull them toward them. Um, Anytime the target uses a main action and in their line of effect, they can use a free trigger to deal 4 holy damage to the target. So they're just dealing holy damage over and over to the target. If the target drops to 0, they can judge someone new as a free triggered. And then they have a few things they can spend 1 wrath to do to the judge target. So they can lock them down. If an adjacent one starts to shift, they can do a melee free strike and lock them down. Bane, judged in 10, makes a power roll, they can grant a Bane to it. They can reduce the potency of something. Judged in 10 uses ability with a potency, they can reduce that by 1. If it targets only 1 creature. And taunt, you damage judged with a melee attack, you can taunt them. So a little bit like the mark in that regard. So that is the human censor judging someone. And now when they're judged, you have, of course, got all these triggers to watch for. So they have My Life for Yours as a trigger. It's a range 10, affecting them or an ally. When the target starts their turn or takes damage, they can do this. I channel my vitality into more resilient for myself or an ally. I spend a recovery, and the target regains my recovery value and stamina. I should write what that is for him. It is 1/3 of his hit points, so 10. So you're spending recoveries, and other allies are getting 10 hit points back. You're going to also spend a wrath to end the save ends or end of turn or prone effect on the target. So nice little healing that you can do there for it free triggered. And it just triggers when they start their turn. So you can, boom, right at the start of their turn, do it, or right when they take damage, you can do it. Then humans, which the censor pregen here is, can resist the supernatural. When they take typed damage, you'll see most of the damage that you've seen has been just DMG for a shorthand for damage. If they take like holy damage or fire damage or corruption damage, they can use their trigger to have that damage 1 time per turn. If they got someone judged and they use their main action, they got that. If their stamina goes to 0, they got that. If they're adjacent and shift, they got that. If they make a power roll in 10, they got that. If they use a potency in 10, they got that. And if they damage them with a melee attack, they got that. So what are they looking for? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 things to watch for. They're watching that judged creature constantly to see what it's doing and what they can do to stop it. You got your wrath, and your wrath. So 3 things that are building your wrath, and your save ends in your turn. So those are the triggers you're watching for. You don't really have to watch for anyone else with the censor. It's mostly you and your judged target. So slightly less watching than the tactician has to do. Then what do you have for powers? So of course you have your free strike, your charge, defend, heal. Your allies can't save you. A melee 1 on a creature or object. 17, that'd be 14 holy damage. Enemies adjacent to the target are pushed back to my strike turns foe's guilt into a burst of holy power. So it's actually a burst of holy power radiates out from my target, pushes their allies or pushes my enemies away from them. Pretty cool. You can do that over and over. Pain for pain. So melee to 1, 13, that'd be 7 damage. If the target had dealt damage to me since the end of my last turn, since your last turn, I would do a little bit extra damage. That game seems to have a lot of combo pieces, support effects, and the ability to help or boost others. It does. So to keep it running fast is going to take some pretty dedicated work. Hey, I'll have to catch this on the replay. Looking forward to all of the upcoming Draw Steel content. Thanks, Uriah. Yeah, so to play this game fast, you got to be really, you only play your own character, you don't play anyone else's character, and you're paying attention. And then it'll be a fast, fun game, I think. So that's Pain for Pain. The Gods Punish. I channel holy energy to smite a foe and heal an ally. I can spend a recovery to allow myself or an ally in 10 to regain my recovery. So there's another way you can help people. That takes a little bit of your wrath, though, to do it. 10 roll would be 7 holy damage to my target. I can arrest a target. So I stride up to the orc. I grab him by the throat and pull him next to me. I rolled 10. So I do 8 holy damage to him. Holy power flows out of my arm. I grab them. And then if they try to make a strike versus a creature while I have them grabbed, I can spend 3 wrath to deal 2 holy damage to them, then change the target of their strike to a other target in the strike's distance. I'd assume not themselves, but I don't know for sure if that's the intent. I think that's how I'd rule it. But so yeah, you grab them, you got them held. They can't attack other people. Well, they can, but you can redirect it and deal damage to them. So that's the arrest power for that guy. Seems to promote cooperation and concentration on what is happening. Absolutely, absolutely. You got to be careful with cooperation. You don't need to like plan out everyone's turn. Be reactive to what other people are doing. You'll kind of learn their powers and such, um, but just play fast. You don't want to get into groupthink about what everyone's doing. This game is very prone to letting that happen, and I would not recommend it for a fast-paced, fun game. Arrest, the gods punish, pain for pain. Your allies charge, defend. Okay, so you got maneuvers. Judgment's a special one for you. Detect is something humans have, where you can detect supernatural as a maneuver. Till the end of your turn, next turn, location of any supernatural object, undead, construct, or creature from another world within 5 squares. You don't need the line of effect to do that. So even an undead in the grave or something, you'd be able to tell. If it's an object or a creature and the nature of the creature. So you could say, I'm going to check this grave here. Oh yeah, there's undead there. So pretty potent power for humans, really. When you think about exploration in a dungeon, I'd be doing that all the time, right? All the standard maneuvers, all the standard moves. So that is the sensor. Coming up on 45 minutes here. If anyone has any questions, let me know. I don't think I'm going to go into the other ones. I think I'll do a separate video for the rest. So if you're playing a game for me, that's how I'm going to run initiative. That's how you'll know where malice is at. That's how you'll know where hero points are at. I recommend you just use scratch paper for your other resources. I'd recommend you watch your triggers and know what they are. And if you need to jot down, if my shorthand isn't clear enough, jot down for yourself a little sheet with what your triggers are. And also know that you can play this game just regular. I am a character in this world. This is what I'm doing. I'm going to walk over here. I'm going to try and pick this lock. I'm going to swing my sword at that guy, just using a free strike, You can play, it can definitely be played that way, I think. And it can also really ramp up the craziness and the heroicism. And I think you can keep it running fast and keep it cinematic that way. But it is prone to get bogged down if you let it. I don't recommend letting it. I think you'll have much more fun if you don't. That's it. Thanks for watching. And I'm going to be running this game on Saturday with a group. I'm going to be running it again a couple weeks later with another group. I'm looking forward to seeing how everyone does with it. Looking forward to seeing how well I can do the monsters and keep them running fast. This game certainly, I remember doing the playtest, was really taxing to run, and they smoothed it out a little bit. It's still a lot going on. I'll be interested to see how I feel after I run it. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys all later.